So David, we're on the set of Malibu. Dan, thanks for having us here today.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
You had a long journey to get to where you are now. Tell me about that journey and your faith aspect in that.
I went to Bible school. My entire family had gone to Moody Bible Institute. So, and they'd all met their significant others. So my mother met my father there, my brother met his wife there, my sister met her husband there, and I was expected to do the same thing. Because when you come from a long lineage, it's just kind of what you do. You meet your significant other at a Christian college, and then you go into like a regular job.
Yeah.
And so after a year, though, I called my dad and I said, "Dad, I want to leave Bible school." And this was a hard one for me because weighing this all out, especially growing up as a pastor's kid, and then you go to Moody Bible Institute, and there's not even a drama program there. You jump right into it, and it's all about ministry, and it's about being a missionary or a pastor, or that's what you do. And to shake that off and to say, my dad always wanted me to become an evangelist, to say, oh, okay, Dad, I want to now leave Bible school and go to Hollywood to be an actor, it doesn't really bode well in your mind, in your heart, how in the world could that be from the Lord? But I couldn't get rid of this dream, and I feel like if God puts these dreams inside of you that you can't shake, and if they're bigger than you, then there's at some point you need to step out. And so I made that call to my parents, and remarkably, my dad said, "David, as long as you serve the Lord and whatever you do, we support you." And I do think there was some teeth clenching in the process of saying we support you, But I moved to Hollywood at 19 and jumped in that way, and then pretty much did mainstream television for 10 years before I got into producing as well.
And why produce Christian content?
Well, when I was on a hit television show for the first 3-4 years, and then I recurred on other shows, but I had time on my hands. And like when you're an actor, you can make enough money to live, but you're like a poor rich person. You don't really have enough money to go do other things. You're just kind of surviving where you're not doing another job. And then, so producing kind of came to me as, hey, this would be great to get my friends together and then produce what you know. And because I'd grown up in the Christian, in the Christian industry with my dad as a pastor and all that, I knew the Christian industry and kind of got into the film production that way.
Some actors would say that's career suicide, to
Probably.
go into the Christian world. And so you obviously took a chance. And I think it's interesting what you said, this desire to be an evangelist. You've almost become an evangelist with film, with TV. So did you ever think that this might be career suicide by dipping into Christian film specifically?
You know what? I mean, a lot of people are very, they're nervous about that. For me, it wasn't so much. I didn't have a problem, kind of as I mentioned, I didn't have a problem with where I'm from. I embraced being, I grew up as a Mennonite of all things. But at the core of it, I knew that I really believe that Jesus Christ is the center of all of it. And it's about that relationship with God that is first and foremost the most important thing in your life. And of course, when I came to Hollywood, you jump in there. I was on a hit show right out of the 6 months after I arrived in LA.
Yeah.
So you go through that period of questioning, do I believe what I believe because it was instilled in me at an early age, or do I believe it because it's true and I really believe it? And so I went through those type of things trying to weigh those out. But at the end of it, when you come out of it and I go, no, I believe it because I believe it, not because my parents, forced me to believe it. Now, how do you act upon that? And for me, it didn't matter whether or not Hollywood said, you're committing career suicide. It was what I believed, and I'm a firm believer in following your heart and your passion and living that out.
And then starting Pure Flix and being a co-founder of Pure Flix. How did that start, and why do that?
Yeah, well, there was a big giant hole in the industry for distribution, and so when we first founded Pure Flix, we believed that that we needed to fill that. We needed to become a conduit for other producers to be able to get their content out as well. And we had gone to studios on several of our films, and some of them had been blocked, and some of them, they were, the studios took them. But it was always a catch-22. It was like a 50-50. Are they going to take your film or they're not going to take it? And then where else are you going to put it? Because there were really no other Christian film distributors. And so that was really the kind of the vision behind Pure Flix, is that we need to fill the void for that.
Talking about expanding territories, God's Not Dead. I mean, did you ever expect the success that it endured through that movie? Did you ever expect that to happen?
No, not at all. No. I mean, that was our first theatrical. We had waited 7 years, about 7 years to make a theatrical, and then another 2 to release a theatrical. And up until then, we were releasing DVD movies and movies straight to television sometimes. And I think anytime that God puts a dream and desire in your heart, it's easy to look to the left, to the right, and see what other people are doing. Because the Kendricks were around that time releasing, all of their Fireproof, Courageous, those movies, and doing very well in the theaters. And Sony had kind of stepped up, and yet it was like, Lord, why do you have us still here doing these smaller movies? And it wasn't until God's Not Dead came along that we felt that green light inside to go, okay, this is the one that I want you guys to go off and do. And it was still, this giant big thing that was bigger than us, that God had put in there and to say, okay, go raise $5 million to release it.
Wow. Which
was hard, on a little movie. $1.2 million is what we spent on, which that was even a big movie for us.
1.2 is what you spent on God's Not Dead.
That's what we spent on God's Not Dead, which, so then you put in 5, and then it ended up being like 7 or 8 in the 7 on the P&A, the prints and advertising side. But we almost mortgaged our company to finally get the money at the last moment to be able to release that movie. And then, of course, that Monday morning following, and all the studios had rejected it, and all the Christian studios had rejected it. Nobody believed that it was what we really thought in our hearts that it was supposed to be. And so that Monday morning, of course, when all the, everybody picks up the call, from Access Hollywood, Entertainment Tonight to the New York Times, the LA Times, everybody, USA, they're all like saying, first of all, who is Pure Flix? And what is God's Not Dead? And
remind us of just how well that movie did.
Yeah. Well, it went on to, it broke all these records at that time. It was the #1 independent movie, independent live action movie of 2014. It was stayed in theaters over 20 weeks. That broke its record. But the biggest thing of note, I think, that Hollywood cared about is that it became the 5th most profitable movie in cinema history based on its ROI, its return on investment.
Wow.
So, and the irony about all of this is, I just think, this is kind of the neat thing about God is that he, the one movie that I saw in the theater the first 18 years of my life was a movie called Grease. And I remember going to that movie and seeing Olivia Newton-John in black tights and thinking, for sure I'm going to hell. And from there, though, we fast forward 20-some years, and God's Not Dead comes out, and God's Not Dead is the 5th most profitable movie based on its ROI, and Grease is the 4th most profitable movie based on its ROI. So I just think that's an interesting, connection.
Last question. What have you learned about God and from God through this whole experience?
In life, there are a lot of setbacks that happen from whether it's relational, whether it's loss of, whether it's your parents, your close friends, your spouse. There's sickness with your kids that is unexplainable. There's accidents that happen that don't make any sense of why people have to go through. There's sickness, through all of these things. That there's then you have the tsunamis, the hurricanes, the things that wipe out, hundreds of thousands of people. That it doesn't make any sense. But through it all, through my life, through the difficulties that I've gone through and are going through, and on a consistent basis, I think we all have them. Is that God is faithful. Through everything, He is faithful. and we know that, and we believe that, and we hold to it, even when we don't see it. I believe that he does, that verse, he does work all things out for his good, for those who love him and for those who are called according to his name.
Well said. Thanks, David.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.